Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of the Between the Numbers podcast. We are finally into the postseason. It is Wildcard weekend. We've had Black Monday. There are a bunch of coaches being fired. Also, coach stepping down for health reasons. And basically, what we're gonna do because most of the games weren't important last week. I mean, we now know who are in the playoffs, and we'll get to that in a second. But none of the games really mattered that much apart from draft order. But we'll be covering plenty of that after the season's over. So we're going to talk about all the coaches that have been fired. I mean, who's potentially joining who, and which team probably has the best upside. All that, and then our predictions for the end of for wildcard weekend, which does include some of the worst games I've ever seen in a wildcard round. I mean, this Oakland-Houston game is going to be horrifically bad. I'm not going to watch it. I don't think. I mean,
Yeah, the
I
prospect of Connor Cook against Brock Osweiler
yeah,
isn't particularly enticing.
yeah. It's just not that great. Anyway, we'll get on to the head coaches actually the teams who have a vacancy in their head coach position. So there are six teams. Oh, there we go. All right, we've got the Bills, the Broncos, the Jacksonville Jags, the Rams, the Chargers, and the 49ers. And then there are still some people who think that more coaches will still be fired. Especially, apparently, Bill O'Brien, if he doesn't pick up the W this week against the Raiders, might be sent packing as well. So basically, let's just get into it. Really.
Yeah,
Um,
I think three jobs that you should still watch out for in terms of people who still get fired. I think one is the Indianapolis Colts,
hmm
and another one is the
With Chuck Pagano, yeah.
yeah, and also the GM. I'd say either Chuck Pagano or the GM. I think is going to go because
hmm
they got to change something there. I think another sneaky one that could potentially where a firing could happen would maybe be the Packers if they don't win against the
Oh,
Giants.
really?
That maybe that because they regressed so much this year, and the only reason they're really making the playoffs is because Aaron Rodgers
Turns it
is
on, yeah.
yeah,
Just
and it wasn't. And apparently, there's a lot of divisions in that locker room over like people, especially between Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. And there is maybe a slight rumor. These are very small rumors that could mean that Mike McCarthy is sent packing.
oh,
So
nice.
that could be quite interesting. But then it will be and then obviously the Texans as well. With Bill O'Brien, if he doesn't pick up a win in the playoffs, so still a lot to watch out for.
Hmm.
But I mean, a lot of these a lot of the coaches I thought were quite obvious ones.
Yeah, the ones again fight. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we knew that with. I mean, let's take I don't know, the Rams. Obviously, yeah, the
Yeah,
Jeff Fisher, the ex-head coach, got fired a couple of weeks back. Then was it December, like the second week in December. And like he just signed a 2 year well, he apparently it was announced that he'd signed a 2 year contract extension. A week or 2 weeks beforehand. But apparently that was agreed in the summer. But announcing that you're gonna carry on with this, like announce the extension, and then a week later give him like send him away. It's just like the weirdest thing for, I think, was it Stan Kroenke's the Rams owner to do, and that was so confusing for me. I mean, fair enough, get rid of him because he hasn't been great, and I mean, Jared Goff hasn't been great, and you got to remember everyone that the Rams organization gave up 6 picks for that number one overall pick, who didn't even start in the NFL until like halfway through the year, where the Rams are already a kind of write off, and they weren't really going to make the playoffs anyway. But the Rams, like ever destined to be the 7-9 team that they are, went 4-12. So clearly there was something wrong. There's something wrong going on there. I mean, I think for this year for the Rams, loads of their big players didn't really step up. I mean, I haven't heard Todd Gurley's name nearly as much as I heard last year. The whole time, like yeah, it was every week Todd Gurley was making a play. This year, I don't even. I'm not even sure how many running yards he got. Let me check that up straight away.
I mean, I'd say that's also down to there was a lot of poor offensive line play in Los Angeles this year. But I think Los Angeles, I mean, it's a sneaky, like I'd say, like maybe like a good job to have. everyone keeps building up as this great job. I mean, they've got a good defense there, and yeah, I mean, Jared Goff
Mm.
could be a downside. I'd say the big question of whether how good Jared Goff um, is whether Josh McDaniels takes the job or not. Because I think he'll apparently the Patriots evaluated him, Jared Goff, and they reckon they could have they saw him as a fourth round pick, kind of at the same level of Jacoby Brissett.
Oh
And
wow.
and if Josh McDaniels interviews for that job and says I don't want the job, then I
Mm.
think it kind of says that yeah he sees he sees Jared Goff as not the kind of quarterback he wants to work with because he's
Uh-huh.
not going to be a top level a top 10 quarterback at all. So
Even
but
with all that coaching, just a quick note on Todd Gurley there. He finished the league 17th in rushing yards with 885. I mean, someone who's running over 1,000 yards last season, and not even making it behind numerous running backs who are not really household names. I mean, you got Spencer Ware, Isaiah Crowell, Carlos Hyde there, all just above him. I mean, obviously the top. The top one. I mean, you got Jordan Howard at number 2 for the Chicago Bears. I mean, that was just because the Bears were terrific in the passing attacks. They had to carry on. But yeah, for the Rams, it's going to be like a huge. It's either going to be one of those things where, I mean, obviously they just moved to LA and they're kind of rebranding the team and like they haven't really found their identity yet. I think they like the idea of they're really strong and aggressive and in-your-face defense. But their offense for the past however many years it's been hasn't really exploded. I mean, I think one of the interesting ones is like Tavon Austin, who's like the playmaker which the Rams have. He was a first round pick a couple years ago, and I don't really think he's been all that up to me. I mean, Kenny Britt this year. I mean, he had a quality year for someone who really wasn't that much of a household name. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but there was the NFL did on YouTube the 50 best catches of the year. Great watch if you want to see some highlights and some great catches there. And I think Kenny Britt came on number 3 with a one-handed grab, which is great. But I mean, for the Rams, their offense, their weapons. I mean, Todd Gurley, you could for sure. Their wide receivers, who they got Tavon Austin, and I know they have Kenny Britt, but I don't actually know any of the other ones. Even though they had like Hard Knocks this year, I
yeah.
didn't even know them.
Yeah, they look like quite quite a difficult job. But as I was saying before the podcast, apparently one of the guys who the Rams are going to be trying to go for whilst they're doing all their mandatory interviews
Mhm.
is they want to have a shot at Sean Payton of the New Orleans Saints, where but it basically require them to they need to come to a deal with the Saints over trading him because he's still under contract with them. And then once they've done that, then they can talk to Sean Payton and he can still turn the job down then. So
Mhm.
there's still a lot of hoops to jump through. But there's been a lot of like talk about maybe it could happen that some of the reporters out of New Orleans are saying that this is realistic at the moment. And then quite interesting, I think it was 2 days ago, Drew Brees had a press conference where he didn't really commit to his future in New Orleans.
Okay. Okay.
So could there be a possibility that Sean Payton goes to LA and Drew Brees follows him?
Follows it, and then you have yourself Drew Brees to teach a young um, Jared Cook. I mean, I'm just looking at a quote from Sean Payton on Monday. Apparently, he was considering the Rams vacancy, but then on Monday he said, "My plan is definitely to be back here." Back here being New Orleans, but then he's got 4 years left on his contract, and he plans on honouring that. But then again, if the Saints come to a deal with the Rams about maybe like a coach trade or something, or some sort. I mean, I'm not really sure if the Rams want to give up even more picks than what they have already because they're going to be very short in the draft coming up and for the next couple of years as well. The Rams are going to be having to pick up either pay a lot of people in free agency. Which could happen, but that we can talk about free agency later when it actually comes up. Which I do. Free agency is definitely one of my favorite times of the year because you just have some crazy moves. Which
To
happen.
swear, I'd say this is probably my favorite time of year because this is when it comes out that like you see all the teams that play bad football throughout the year, but then this is the time of year when you see the teams that don't just play bad football, but they're just terribly run franchises and
Mm.
there's no one in charge. everyone's just scrambling to try and stamp their authority over the team. No one can do it, and then you just see the teams that are terrible, and are probably going to be terrible for another couple of years. I'd say a fan base that's probably quite happy at this point is probably the Cleveland Browns because despite the fact they only won one game,
Uh-huh.
they're in like in a nice position where they have a ton of picks next year,
And they had number one pick as well, yeah.
yeah,
And they can even what I'm expecting the Browns to do. If people come calling for that number one pick, I would totally expect the Browns to be like, all right, what are you going to give us for the number one pick?
yeah,
Like,
I could, yeah. I think also maybe an option is that they also have that I think it's the 13th pick as well that they got from the Eagles.
yeah.
I could see maybe a possibility where I don't think Bill Belichick's going to call him up because Bill Belichick just doesn't blink on any negotiation.
Uh-huh.
But I could see a possibility that Hugh Jackson or Paul DePodesta or whoever does that kind of stuff in Cleveland calls up New England and says, "Yo, do you want our 13th pick? And can you give us Jimmy Garoppolo?"
Interesting.
Yeah, because I mean,
That's a
there's
good thing. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks who are becoming who are going to be becoming free agents at the end of the year, and then a lot of quarterbacks, as we said, like even with Drew Brees, like their future's up in the air. I mean, like even with the Chargers, with Philip Rivers. I mean, that we don't even know if where the Chargers are going to be playing this year. I mean, next
Yeah.
year. And then obviously they're
Kirk
one
Cousins.
of the, Kirk, yeah, it could be Kirk Cousins. Although I reckon he would stay with with Washington because I'm not really sure what else they have no other alternate.
Yeah. But he's put his cards on the tables and has basically said that his strategy for free agency is that he wants the biggest contract. That's what he wants.
Oh,
So,
okay. He could definitely move then. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think Washington would be prepared to give him like a huge contract, and there would definitely be some other franchises who are.
Mhm.
So we'll see. Fair play
He
to
get himself some Brock Osweiler money.
He could do. Yeah, just talking about the Chargers actually. And like Philly Roof. Mike McCoy, the Chargers. He got fired from the Chargers after their another one of their losing seasons. The Chargers went 5-11. Fair enough. Like their division is quite a difficult division to do anything in. But at the same time, 1-5 in the division isn't really gonna help you. And it just for the Chargers, they weren't a team that anyone was like, oh yeah, I'm happy to see the Chargers to watch the Chargers play this week. And they were the one team who lost to the Cleveland Browns this year.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that was just like the final. If they weren't already sure on getting rid of Mike McCoy, then that was happening. But apparently, McCoy told the San Diego Union Tribune that he plans to be coaching in 2017. So if that's
That wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of areas been picked up, and I think he's one of the coaches who has just been left with a bad team. It's not like his coaching ability that's questioned here. Maybe a little bit, but I think if he gets like a better team and possibly one which has I don't know like a roster which he can actually coach up. I think it's happened because apart for the Chargers, their future isn't looking that great. Apart from on their defensive side of the ball, I mean, Joey Bosa had a great rookie year. Apart from that, like even with that contract dispute at the start, and then coming in and playing what he did, I think it was 10.5 sacks in his rookie season. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think he's a nail on for defensive rookie of the year.
Mm.
But
I'm not really sure who else would be in the picture really. There's no one who kind of springs to mind.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Nah, not really for me. Nah, literally, I can't even think. There's maybe I can't remember his name. I think it's like
There's Keanu Seal from the
Keanu
Falcons.
Neal from the Falcons. Yeah, that's literally who I was thinking of. I'm literally just typed in his name because I don't know how to. He would be the one other person who I would say would be up there because he's had a good season shoring up that Falcons secondary.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I would say the Chargers is another one of those jobs that if I was a coach I would kind of steer away for. One because it's universally well known the Chargers are a terribly run franchise.
Like players who get drafted, Eli don't want to join them.
They don't want to go there, and I mean Joey Bosa even said it that like man like we should have just pulled an Eli like why am I going to San Diego?
Yeah, but it's definitely one of the because like the stadium's one of the worst. I mean, like, and you don't even know where the Chargers are going to be next year.
Yeah.
And
You have an aging quarterback.
You got aging quarterback, an offense which is well. I mean, fair. Melvin Gordon had a pretty good breakout year this year.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate that he couldn't play the last game. He was ruled out through injury because he was 3 yards short of a 1,000-yard season. So gutted for him in that respect because that's always something which gets pulled up on quarterbacks. How many 1,000-yard seasons have they had? And that stat will always go against him. It was just one of those years where he didn't get 1,000 yards. But I mean, he was a good star. I mean, obviously got Danny Woodhead coming back, but yeah, Keenan Allen's always injured for the Chargers, and it's just not that great looking for them.
Let me just quickly so there's two people at the Chargers who have interviewed so far, who are actually your defensive coordinator Sean McDermott at the Panthers, and the defensive coordinator at the Bucks Mike Smith. So it looks like they're actually moving towards maybe a defensive-minded coach to take advantage of a good young defense.
Yeah, well, definitely, the defense has more upside, I reckon, than the offense. Sure, the offense. I mean, the offense will be is still going to throw. I mean, a million passing yards because you have Phillip Rivers there for sure. And like when he's in there, like he can pull up a win. He can pull off a win against anyone, even with like the players he has around him. But yeah, they're gonna need to kind of like, because like how old is he now? I mean, he's getting like right onto his late 30s. I'm reckoning. So he's 30. He's only 35. So he's still fair. Like he's still maybe got like 3-4 years left.
Yeah.
If he chooses to play that much, and he's a really tough guy. I mean, like he's one of the players that I always enjoy listening to on like sound effects on the field because he always chats away at everyone. I do like him, but it's gonna be. I'm not sure if a new GM would want to come in and be like, yeah, I need a new starting quarterback because he's too old. Like, you can't expect me to go forward with this.
I think that the Chargers should be in a good position that they'll have a reasonably high draft pick again this season. Why not? Well, I mean, I'd say maybe so. First round, draft a defensive player. Second round, get yourself a quarterback and start developing for the future if you're a coach there, because you know that you've only got at least 3-4 years left with Phillip Rivers, and with all the injuries that Rivers has, I don't think he's going to be a Tom Brady and keep playing until he's 40.
Yeah, there's a few teams who could be in the same situation with that, with like need draft a quarterback for the future. I mean, obviously you have loads of teams still looking for their quarterback, and teams hoping that the ones they have right now. But with like the Chargers springs to mind, and like the Cardinals as well with Carson Palmer, he's getting on a fair bit. We wondered if there was talk about last draft season if they would pick up a quarterback, but turns out they didn't. And I mean, Carson Palmer had a big regression last year. This year. It just seems to me that I don't know. Yeah, out of all the coaching jobs, I would probably reckon right now the Chargers and the 49ers. Yeah, I wouldn't really want to go near them. To be fair, like you got the best potential ones. How about that? What do you think what job would you, if you're a head coach, which job do you want to get?
Well, I'd probably just go for the obvious first one, which would be the Denver Broncos, because you've got, I mean, a Super Bowl standard defense there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got weapons on offense. You just need to sort out the offensive line and the quarterback, and then you're pretty much playoff ready already. And then the other one I'd say would probably for me actually be the Jacksonville Jaguars, because I think yes, okay, they've had issues, but for me, this job feels similar to the Miami job last year that Aaron Gase took over. That there's a lot of potential for a quick turnaround there. That all the pieces are in place there. You just got to sort out Blake Bortles' mechanics and his play. You have loads of good receivers there. You have a decent rushing attack. You have good players on defense as well. If you can just coach them well, and find a way to win, you could easily turn that around and have a half decent season next year.
Yeah, I think definitely. And we saw at the start of this year how everyone was jumping on the Jacksonville Jaguars to maybe even make a push to the playoffs and contend for the AFC South. Obviously, that didn't happen. With the Jags finishing at 3-13 was a huge disappointment for them. And I think for the Jags, yeah, like as you said, if you coach up Blake Bortles, get him to keep control keep control of the football, stop throwing all these interceptions. But also, I think for the Jags, they have that defense, which is kind of like it's young, it's ready to go, and the weapons on offense they have. I mean, they have a good little mix of young, rising stars in their wide receivers in Allen Robinson, Alan Hearns, and then you have Julius Thomas there, the veteran tight end, who kind of brings that experience to the offense. All they're really looking for now is maybe for Blake Bortles to step it up, which everyone kind of predicted this year would happen. Unfortunately, not the best one for him, but I wouldn't be surprised if next year everyone starts with a new appointment, and if it's one everyone agrees with, everyone start bigging up the Jags again to make a push for the AFC South, because that is a division which any team could effectively win next year.
Yeah, it's a very open division. I mean, you look at the Houston Texans. I mean, they were pretty. They're not that great a team, and they managed to win that division. So you don't have to be that good to win this division. So it's quite an attractive job. I mean, which jobs would you steer clear from?
Clear from. We haven't talked about the 49ers job, so let's get into that one. I mean, this is a team which everything seems to have gone downhill since the sacking of John Harbaugh. Jim, my bad. It's just an issue with their quarterback play. Obviously, hasn't been up to scratch. I mean, I was really surprised when they sacked Chip Kelly, because I thought at least they would give him a chance, because it's clear the team isn't good enough. Like, it's not I don't think it was the coaching, but just the team itself. Like, the roster they have is not that great. I mean, the defense, which was so almost like feared about 3-4 years ago, has now lost so many of its main players. I mean, Navarro Bowman is the only one kind of still there from that Super Bowl run that they made 4 years ago. And it's just seemed and obviously Kaepernick, who's meant to be like the huge star in the NFL, after making the push to the the NFC Championship and then to the Super Bowl, obviously that all the stuff happens with him and all the off-field issues. I think that's mainly the reason why, if I had to pick between the 49ers and the Chargers, that's a very difficult one, because both franchises are poorly run and have very glaring issues. I mean, they're both looking for a quarterback, and you know how difficult it is to get a quarterback in this league, to play well and to play in your system. And I mean, obviously with Phillip Rivers, he's moving on in the next couple of years or so, but he's still there. You can still play with him, but it's not like a long-term future, I don't think. If I could either take the San Diego or the San Francisco job, I might end up taking the San Francisco job, because although the San Diego one, I just don't see them having. It's not a job you can see yourself being in 5 years, unless you're drafting quarterback and unless you're developing him. Because sure, Philly, he might play 5 years. Sure, he might regress. I wouldn't say he would doing that. Over 5 years, sure, but in the next couple of years, I still expect him to be playing at the same caliber level that he is right now. But that team on offense is just not that great. And getting a quarterback. I mean, if San Diego go and play Kirk Cousins in the summer, I'd be like, that's a great idea. Depending on who they get as their quarterback. I mean, San Diego actually, now that I'm really thinking about it, if you get yourself a quarterback, it could help, but I mean, you're not going to pay Kirk Cousins in the summer if you have Philly Rivers still there.
Yeah, I think that would be.
It's the issue. There's no quarterback in the draft right now, who you could be like, yeah, you're good enough for me in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
They might be looking into a backup kind of situation like have with Jimmy Garoppolo. Kind of get someone in, and that's what really they should be looking into.
Yeah, I think for them going and paying a quarterback right now would be kind of a waste of cap space, because you got a future Hall of Famer still fit and ready to play. But I'd say one job we haven't really touched on much yet is the Buffalo Bills. Is a job that, to be fair, I would kind of steer clear from as well. Just not because of the team. I think that there's a lot of good players there, but I think just in the way that the team's being run at the moment, that The owners seem to have no clue about what's going on. They've only owned the team for a couple of years. They don't really know how to run an NFL team. The GM has no idea what's going on. And the way that they've handled the Tyrod Taylor situation kind of
Mm.
leaves a bad taste in your mouth that they haven't benched him because they don't think he's good. They've just benched him purely for financial reasons that they don't want to pay him next year.
Hmm.
And they're apparently on their website, all of their like highlights videos are really obviously just hiding the fact that Tyrod Taylor was ever in the team last year,
Mm.
and they're doing like as much as
That,
possible to
I mean,
convince everyone that
that's a
he's
really interesting one with Tyrod Taylor coming like a free agent. I'll be
yeah,
really interested to see if teams pick him up because like we've seen flashes of brilliance, but never really got to that stage which
he's lacked consistency.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
He many injury as well, and also consistency as well because of the weapons he's had around him. Like Sammy Watkins hasn't had like a consistent stretch where he's been fit. LaShawn McCoy's been in and out of injury.
Mhm.
But I mean, if you put him in a system where he can stay healthy and his weapons around him can stay healthy, I think he could be really good. I think he's shown that he's an above average starting quarterback.
Yeah, like
Uh,
when he's like hot on his good streaks, obviously he's a good quality quarterback. I mean, obviously you can say that with a bunch of quarterbacks. I really did enjoy watching Tyrod Taylor, and I was a bit. It was kind of weird because obviously backing up to Joe Flacco in Baltimore beforehand, and then like getting released and getting the starting job in Buffalo. Um, it was I kind of, it was weird because I expected to see a lot more. Well, I thought he was good enough to like carry on. I kind of kept expecting to see more from him because
yeah.
I think he has the potential to like go to get better and to like move higher up in the quarterback rankings or whatever. But I don't know in that Buffalo Bills team, he's got very limited weapons really. I mean, sure, Sammy Watkins, great young wide receiver, but the other Bills receivers, I'm not so
Hey,
sure about.
yeah, they're kind of lacking in that department.
Mm.
But then again, they've got a lot of talent on defense as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think their defense isn't the issue. I don't think. Like their offense are issue, and it seems to be like the GM is a huge sorry, not Eli, EJ Manuel fan. So I mean, if EJ Manuel starts again for the Bills, it will just be like another regression for them. I mean, they're kind of on the way to doing something better. I understand if you're getting rid of Rex Oran because it's not really working, and like he's had there's many issues that's been had with him there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean the Bills. I would rather take the Bills job than the San Diego or San Francisco job because at least you'll be winning, hopefully, like above 6 games a year.
Yeah, but then also you got to play Tom Brady and Bill Belichick
For sure,
twice a year.
yeah, and then obviously you have that the team in Miami with how well they've been doing, and like I don't really want to face JHIE 2 times a year. I mean, because you got to
Yeah,
go down to Miami, and you know he's running all over you when they're down in Miami. When he
yeah,
comes to you and he goes and he travels, I'm not really so sure he's the same. I'm not so sure he's the same person
yeah,
or the same player. But I'm not. Yeah, I think if I could take any job right now out of all the ones which are available, obviously the Broncos, all you need to do is sort yourself out, a call back, and then boom, you got it.
yeah,
And it seems to be like you can do that very quickly by getting someone in free agency who's coming up. I mean, obviously talking about throwing out Kirk Cousins' name, Tony Romo could be coming
yeah,
up. Could be coming up. I mean, that would be a great sign there for both of them, both teams, but for both parties there. Tony Romo resurrecting his career maybe in Denver, and that's the one thing he never really had in Dallas, a really strong defense. I know they kind of have it this year, but well, he's not starting this year. But it's just the way it goes, and like he can like rely on that Denver Broncos defense. And we saw last year that you can rely on that defense with quarterback play which isn't up that great.
yeah. But then also it can go south so quickly, like we saw
Hmm.
this season. That yeah, you can have a really great defense, and you can ride that all the way to the Super Bowl if everything goes perfectly for you.
Yeah,
But if it doesn't, it can go south quite quickly.
yeah.
But yeah, I'd probably agree with you. I'd say for me, I'd say either the Denver job or the Jacksonville job. Those would be the top jobs. Well, apparently, Kyle Shanahan has indicated that the Denver Broncos job would be his ideal job as well. So
Okay. Okay, there we
see
go.
whether he will make an appearance there. But because he's still in the playoffs, this is a weird rule that you can't sign for another team until your team is knocked out of the
Uh-huh.
playoffs.
I mean, it makes sense because like it means like come on, like concentrate on your team right now.
Yeah,
And like
but
imagine if he wins the Super Bowl with the Falcons, and then he's like, well, look at me, I got myself a ring. I can now go potentially get myself another one somewhere and like prove yourself as a coach.
yeah,
Obviously, it doesn't really matter if you say if you just signed for them right now. I mean, I think that's the issue. It's that they don't want you. Say if you're like the Houston or the Oakland defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, and you're being touted for other jobs. You guys aren't making it to the Super Bowl. You're not making it past like the divisional
yeah,
round. You could be thinking ahead if you're that coach. I think that's really what it is about.
yeah,
Hopefully, because you know. Oh, anyway,
yeah.
I don't. Are there any other coaching? Well, I mean, maybe potential coaches you want to talk about, or
Um, no. I mean, it's just interesting. I mean, the guys who are being interviewed at the moment are all pretty much the obvious candidates.
hmm
I mean, Josh McDaniels, Kyle Shanahan, Matt Patricia, and then I'm surprised that Jim Bob Cooter, the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, hasn't been linked with any jobs yet.
sure.
Uh,
Tom Coughlin's been thrown around there.
yeah,
Um,
uh,
obviously the ex former Giants and Jags head coach, so maybe he could go back to Jacksonville.
I'm going to make a bold prediction and say that Jeff Fisher will find his way into a job.
Oh, like what? Like any job?
Just any job. No, okay.
Okay.
I'd say
If he comes up as like quarterback coach for like the Bills, I'll be like, what is this? Like that doesn't count.
But I wouldn't put it past him finding himself a head coaching job because
Mm,
he gets on really well with owners. He's very well liked by the commissioner, and he's got this kind of rapport. And he's got like a lot of reporters quite like him as well. So he's got all the contacts. So I wouldn't be surprised if he find his way of like whittling away at
uh-huh.
himself an interview, and then before you know it, he's head coach of the 49ers or something.
Yeah.
God, I mean,
Imagine if he did that and then came back to the Rams and
well,
just
and then just beat them twice a year, and then made that is the only team he beats it twice a year.
yeah. I mean, he could try and do what Rex Ryan did with what Rex Ryan tried to do with against the Jets. Okay, let's can we talk about this one play in the it was the worst play I'd seen this season. It was in the Bills Jets game this the past week. The Jets kick the ball off into the Bills, and like all like two they have the Bills have two people back, and they one of the things is going over the head, the other one thinks the other person's gonna catch it. And then the ball like bounces, and they're like, oh, I better run back and get it and make sure that the Jets don't recover it or like stop it to go back. And then it bounces into the end zone, and then one of the Bills players just kind of like stands above it and is like, oh, okay, look, the ball's in the end zone, nice. That means we get a touchback, right? And then and like no one's touched it at this point, which means that if the Jets touch the ball next, they recover it, it will be a touchdown. And of course, one of the Jets players comes in and is like, all right, I'll take that. I mean, he was surprised himself. He went over the ball, stuttered for a bit in the end zone, and was like, why is the ball here? I don't understand. And then just picked it up for a touchdown. It was just like the worst play I'd seen. I mean, obviously, you had that this season. Obviously, you had the Colts last season with whatever that like fake punt thing was.
Yeah, oh, that was a joke.
But this season, that was just like horrifically bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
kind of sounds like the Jets, so that's the way they score.
I thought like, wow, the Bills, you're in need of some. You got some issues there. Anyway, should we get on to our predictions for Wildcard weekend?
Yeah,
All very exciting games. So actually, should we run through the teams who are going into the playoffs? Okay, so obviously you have in the AFC, you have your number one seed, which are the New England Patriots. Then you have your number two seed with the Kansas City Chiefs, who beat out the Oakland Raiders in the last game when they went. The Chiefs went 6-0 in their division. I mean, props to the Chiefs. Well done. Like no other team went 6-0 in their division this year. So you know,
do we start respecting the Chiefs now?
actually, the Texans did, but like that they suck.
Yeah,
I think so. I mean, it's difficult because I think if Derek Carr hadn't been injured, then I don't think the Chiefs would have got it because I think that the Raiders might have picked up the W and moved to 13-3 rather than drop to 12-4. the Chiefs, I reckon they're the only contend. Them and Pittsburgh will be the only contenders to the Patriots in the AFC. Pittsburgh there being the number 3 seed. Then you got the number 4 seed, the Houston Texans, who play the number 5 seed, the Oakland Raiders, in a terrible matchup. And then Miami, who came in at number 6, travel to Pittsburgh this weekend to go on it. So, what do you think about the we can talk about the Oakland Raiders and Houston Texans game first, because I feel that's the least exciting one this weekend.
Yeah, that's that quarter matchup we've been waiting for all year, which is Connor Cook against Brock Osweiler.
There was this crazy stat I saw, which was since the merger between the NFL, to merger to get into the NFL, basically the new one. I think it's in like 1999. No quarterback drafted in the 4th round has ever started a playoff game, and this year we have 2. Obviously, Dak Prescott, and then Connor Cook, randomly out of nowhere, hasn't even played. Well, played a little bit in the last game for sure, but he's going to be starting a playoff game after being a 4th round pick, and just be there and be like, I mean, what can you expect him to do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Connor Cook has experience in the playoffs. He went to the college football playoffs with Michigan State last year, and let's say that his incredible record included a 38-0 loss to Alabama in the playoffs last year.
I mean, that Alabama team last year was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you are playing probably one of the top defensive teams ever in college football. So I'll give you that. But yeah, I mean, apparently his college coach has come out and saying that he trusts that Connor Cook should be able to handle this situation. So I think if he keeps his temperament, because I mean the way he played at Michigan State was he played behind a really good defense as well, and he didn't really like the field of light. So if he kind of just keeps his temperament, plays well, controls the game, I think they're going to lean a lot on Latavius Murray and that offensive line, and if they can get physical. And punch a lot of holes and let Latavius Murray run. And then the defense has just got to stop Brock Osweiler, so you're not stopping anything special there.
You can make the exact same argument for the Texans there. All you got to do is stop Connor Cook, who, like a number of passes he threw in his career, and we'll see. But I mean, obviously, I think touching on the Oakland offensive line, this is one of the most exciting things I think for me would be the offensive line versus the defensive line of Houston, because both like. Houston, obviously, they don't have JJ Watt, but they kind of want to prove to themselves that we don't really need JJ Watt to dominate. They still have, obviously, when they add him in, they're one of the best defensive lines in the league. They still want to be known as that, even with missing their stud defensive end. So I'm looking at this is the one of the matchup I think is key in this game. The Oakland Raiders offensive line versus the Houston Texans defensive line. I think that whoever wins that battle wins. That will just show who wins the game.
It's a real chance for a breakout game for Jadeveon Clowney. He's had kind of like a breakout season that.
A little bit, yeah.
But if he steps up and gets a couple sacks in this game, and maybe a few tackles for losses, then I think. He can finally come out of that shadow, and I mean, I always forget that he was a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, number 3. What was it in 2014?
Yeah, 14.
Yeah.
So
and he's been injured, obviously. If you get I mean, it's gonna be an interesting one. I mean, he always gets talked up because he was such a high caliber draft pick, and everyone was like number 1, no question. The best player of the draft this year is Jadeveon Clowney, and we're just waiting for him to show that. But who have you got in this game?
I'm actually going to go with the Oakland Raiders. I think that their offensive line, they showed it a couple of times this season that they can literally win on the back of that offensive line, and I think it's on par, not fully but like on that kind of same-ish level as the Dallas Cowboys. And I think if they just run the ball with Latavius Murray, don't turn the ball over, and kind of limit Connor Cook as much as possible. And then as well, they do have playmakers on defense as well.
Their defense is quality, yeah.
So I think the Raiders. Yeah, I'm gonna go for the Raiders in this game.
Go for the Raiders, all right. I think I'm just the Texans at home. It's Connor Cook. I think Brock Osweiler. I was talking about before the podcast. This would be the most like Brock Osweiler thing to do. for it to be horrifically bad in the whole season. Your team gets to the playoffs clearly you didn't even need to be there. Um, I think Brock Osweiler might have a good game here. Obviously, that Oakland defense is for sure one of the tougher ones. I mean, that pass rush with Bruce Irvin on one side, Khalil Mack on the other, it's pretty mental. Difficult to stop. And the Houston offensive line, obviously, you have Dwayne Brown, their left tackle. He's amazing. He's one of the best left tackles in the league. But stopping Khalil Mack on your right hand side, that's gonna be difficult to do. But I do believe that with the Houston run game, which is very strong, having Lamar Miller there, I think they can go on, like, what they've done this season is basically just go off Lamar Miller whenever they can, and I like that a lot. I like that they're doing that. But I've got the Texans in this one. Both the long-winded reply, but I've got the Texans picking up this one. Although it will be an interesting matchup because that Raiders defense is pretty stellar.
I hope you enjoy being wrong.
I can't even think that Raiders doing it. I mean, the Texans ran off, like, they could do what they did last year and then just completely have a meltdown, but we'll see. Anyway, onto a more interesting one in the AFC. You have the number 6 seed Miami Dolphins traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Unfortunately for the Dolphins, they don't have their starting quarterback either. 3 out of the 4 teams in the AFC Wildcard weekend are not playing their preferred quarterback. You can kind of say that Brock Osweiler was the starting quarterback of the Texans, but so Matt Moore is starting for the Miami Dolphins, and well, I mean, it's going to be difficult for Miami to beat Pittsburgh anyway.
Yeah.
I've got Pittsburgh in this one simply because in the postseason they kind of turn it on a little bit, and Miami, their huge threat is their running game, and I don't think J.J.'s run game travels very well. Although, like, when they played against each other early on this season, J.J. ran for 204 yards and 2 touchdowns. But that was in Miami.
Also, Ben Roethlisberger was also injured in that game.
True.
And I think that this is the only chance that I would give. One, I'd say having Matt Moore is actually going to hinder them now because I think he really struggled against the Patriots, and I think when he comes up against another good opposition, I think he's going to struggle again. So I think they will actually miss Ryan Tannehill in this game. I never thought I would say those words. But yeah, I don't think that I think the Dolphins' only chance in this game is if Ndamukong Suh finds a way to get a cheap shot on Ben Roethlisberger and his ankle gives way, and Ben Roethlisberger goes out. I would say give them their chance of winning because then they put Landry Jones in and they could maybe win then. But I can't see it. I mean, if the Miami defense can kind of stop them a little bit and keep them hanging around until the third quarter, maybe they have a chance. But I think, I mean, the Dolphins, they had a nice ride this season, but I think it will end in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, same here. Right, moving on to the NFC. Just a little quick breakdown of the NFC. Obviously, you have the number 1 seed in Dallas winning the division. Then, surprisingly, number 2 seed, which this has come under the radar for me. I mean, they've always been top of their division, the Atlanta Falcons, ahead of the NFC South. But no one's going to be like, oh, the start of the season, yeah, sure, Falcons, number 2 seed. Which is so they're number 2 seed. Then you got the number 3 seed being the Seattle Seahawks, who host the number 6 seed Detroit Lions, and then you have the number 4 seed Green Bay Packers, who host the number 5 seed New York Giants, which is going to be my favorite game to watch. I'm really looking forward to watching the Giants Green Bay game here, and it is the Giants, and they're on postseason. I'm expecting Eli Manning to do something special. I mean, obviously, and the Giants defense, which everyone has been talking about this since week 6, has been the best defense in the NFL. There's only one issue with their matchup this weekend is they're coming up against Aaron Rodgers, who has been a potential MVP candidate in this season, finishing the season very strong. But for me, the Giants with Eli in the postseason and how good their defense has been, I got the Giants in this one.
Yeah, I mean we talk about how the Giants, they love to destroy the Patriots in the postseason. You got to remember both times that when they won Super Bowls with Eli Manning, they beat the Packers in the postseason as well. So there's a bit of history coming into this game as well. So, but I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to go for the Packers in this game. I think that Aaron Rodgers is in such a hot streak right now, and I think that the Packers defense is lacking a bit, and that lacking in quality could come out.
But I think of all the seasons where Eli Manning's come into the postseason, I think this has been one of the seasons where he has really played quite badly. Like he is throwing a lot of pointless interceptions, and I think we know how much he turns it on in the postseason, but I think he could. I think this is where he starts to come up short, and the Eli Manning train stops in
Really?
Green Bay.
Okay. I mean to be fair, I think that this is the either of these either of these two teams are ones you could never write either of them off in the playoffs. It's gonna be an interesting one seeing it. Anyway, moving on to the next game, we have Detroit Lions going to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. For me, the Lions have been for the past however many weeks they've been at 9 wins. It's not happening for them right now. Their defense is pretty much non-existent. They're not that great, the Lions' defense. And if you stop the pass game, which notoriously the Seattle Seahawks, obviously the Legion of Boom, if that shows up, then I got the Seahawks in this game. And I just think I just can't see it's going to be very difficult for the Lions to win this one.
Yeah, I think as well. Logic for me would say that the Seahawks would definitely win this game.
Logic for you, you're definitely picking the Lions.
Yeah, but when has logic ever stopped me?
You just pick Matt Stafford whenever you can. Every
Hey,
week.
well, this might be the last time I pick him, but if I do pick him this week, it'll be the greatest pick of all when they do win. But I think you know what, like you said. So I mean, logic hasn't really been a part of any of these teams. The Seahawks have lost some quite weird games, and I think if the Lions can do what every team has done when playing against the Seahawks, which is just dial it up on the blitz and destroy that offensive line, then you can win the game. I mean, Russell Wilson's played some absolute blindness into it. I mean, he threw 5 interceptions in one game. I mean, he got absolutely wrecked against the Bucks. So I think if the Lions can follow that blueprint, and then Matt Stafford's going against the Legion of Boom in Seattle. But I think he's a top 10 quarterback, and he can come through that.
Yeah. Okay. There you guys have it this weekend. Those have been our picks for Wildcard weekend. Obviously, a lot more excitement to come. I'm looking forward to it. Definitely the Giants-Packers game. I think it's my pick of game of the week. I mean, there's only 4 games, so hopefully I'm not wrong. But anyway, guys, hope you had a good one. And the NFL regular season was all to your heart's content. Obviously, it wasn't to mine. Just a quick final note. MVP? Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan MVP. Fair enough. I
think you've got it. He had a really good. His last couple of weeks are really good, and I think just in the way that the Falcons, because they got the second seed as well, I could see that happening.
For sure. I mean, I can understand that. I can understand a lot of picks for MVP here. For me, it would be. I'd probably have to go for Zeke Elliott, but because he's a rookie, I don't think that's going to happen. So I might swing more towards, say, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but you have to play well for the whole season.
Yeah, and I think Aaron Rodgers, but he's just turned it on. I mean, obviously, I'd pick that. Zeke Elliott. I think he is my pick for it. But just because he's a rookie, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's more likely that Aaron Rodgers will get it. But anyway, there you go, guys. Hope you enjoy Wildcard weekend coming up. I know I certainly will. I'm excited to watch all the games. Maybe not that Oakland Texas game, but anyway. All right, see you guys next week.